Hello, this is Mr. Kenyanola, and I'm going to show you five facts about parallelograms. Parallelograms. So 5 facts. First fact, before the 5 facts, grab everything that you need here. You're going to need a ruler, you're going to need 2 different colored markers or highlighters, and 1 pen or pencil. So grab them. All right, so parallelograms. And let's do this. First fact is that look at these arrows. You guys remember what arrows? And look at the name, parallel. First fact is opposite sides are parallel. So first fact, opposite sides are parallel. It's in the name. Don't say all sides are parallel, because this side isn't parallel to this side and this side isn't parallel to this side. Only the opposite side. So AB is parallel to CD and AD is parallel to BC. So this has the same slope as this side. This side will never intersect this side because they also have the same slope. That's fact number 1. I'll make sure you remember that. All right, so I'm going to show you the second fact and the third fact. So parallelograms, remember, opposite sides. Rewrite it again so that you remember these 5 facts. Opposite sides are parallel. All right, fact number 2 is this. Well, let's look at it. We have to remember. We have to think about what we remember about parallel lines. So if I take my 1 pink marker and I'm going to highlight this side right here, and I'm going to highlight this side right here, and I'm going to highlight, what is this side called right here? It's a transversal. If you guys remember that, transversal. So what do we notice about angle A right here and angle B right here? Yeah, they're consecutive interior angles. And if you remember, consecutive interior angles are not congruent. Look at this angle, looks like it's obtuse. This angle looks like it's acute. This one's wider. This one is not as wide. It's narrower. So if you remember, I'm going to put 1 arc right here and 2 arcs right here so that we know that they're not congruent, but they are supplementary. So these consecutive interior angles are supplementary. But is that true about all of them? Well, let's rotate it this way. Now I'm going to take my different colored marker, and I am going to highlight this side right here, and I'm going to highlight this side right here and this side right here. And look at that. It looks like A and D are also consecutive interior angles, and because the lines are parallel, they are also supplementary. What does that even mean? Well, if they're supplementary, let's say that this angle is 50 degrees, then that means these 2 angles have to add up to 180 degrees. So this angle would have to be 30 degrees. And then if we did the same thing over here, this line right here is a transversal, and over here, so that these 2 angles are supplementary. And so if this angle was 130 degrees, this one would be 50 degrees. So, and hey, look at that. These 2 would be supplementary, so this one would be 130 degrees. So fact number 2 is that consecutive or adjacent angles that are next to each other, we're going to write consecutive interior angles are, don't say congruent, they are supplementary. So because these lines are parallel in a parallelogram, these consecutive interior angles add up to 180. Because these lines are parallel, these angles add up to 180, these angles add up to 180. The ones next to each other add up to 180. But wait a minute, wait. Do you see a third fact there? Is there a third fact? Yeah, look close. Look at Look at these opposite angles right here. What is true about these opposite angles? Yeah. This one has two arcs, this one has two arcs, this one has one arc, this one has one arc. Or just hypothetically, if this was 50 degrees, and if we did the whole supplementary thing, and if we skipped an angle from here to here, and here to here, the opposite angles are congruent. Yes, so if this was 50, this would have to be 50. If this is 30, this is 130. This would have to be 130. So there are, here are facts 2 and 3. Consecutive interior angles add up to 180 degrees, and opposite angles are congruent. Remember those. Put those in your heads, okay? All right, now for fact number 4. All right, so I'm just going to write number 4. I'm not going to write the first 3 again because you remember them. Opposite sides are parallel. Consecutive interior angles are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. 1, 2, 3. Here's 4. Now, what we need for number 4 is our ruler. And, yeah, let's get a black pen. Let's keep on using our black pen. We're going to draw a line from here to here. From opposite angles, we're going to draw a line right here. And this line is called a diagonal. Diagonal. It's just a line that's a diagonal that goes on opposite ends. We're just gonna write one or draw one. Okay, so what are we gonna do with this diagonal? Well, what does this diagonal do? It creates 2 triangles. And so what's the deal with these 2 triangles? Well, first off, it's going to help us look at some things. Look at this triangle right here. Look at this triangle. Because we know fact number 3, is opposite angles are congruent. So I could put an arc here, and I could put an arc right here to say that angle A is congruent to angle C. Another thing is that because these lines are parallel, I'm going to draw a line like that. I'm going to draw a line like that. And this line right here, this diagonal that we just drew, is a transversal. And now just focus on the pink lines. We know that these angles are congruent because these are alternate interior angles. Yeah, alternate interior angles on the parallel lines. So that's another pair of angles that are congruent in these 2 triangles. And then last one is, well, this BD is congruent to itself. So I'm going to put 1 tick mark right there. What does that tell us? What does that tell us about this triangle and this triangle? It tells us that this triangle right here is congruent to this triangle right here because of why? We know 5 facts about congruent triangles, but why are these 2 triangles congruent to each other? Because of sorry, I had to check. Because of angle, side, angle, and side. So yeah, they're congruent to each other because of angle, side. So what is that? How does that help us? So if we were to make a flow chart, we would say angle A is congruent to angle C, angle ADB is congruent to angle CBD, and BD is congruent to itself. Reflexive, the 2 triangles are congruent because of angle, side. And because we know about this thing called CPCTC, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent, it tells us that this side right here in this triangle, that's sandwiched between these 2 angles, is congruent to this side right here. And it also tells us that from this triangle to this triangle, that this side is congruent to this side right there. Because when 2 triangles are congruent, all their parts are congruent. So we can say that opposite. Fact number 4, opposite sides are congruent. So if this side right here, AD, was 5 inches, then this side, BC, would be 5 inches. It doesn't mean that this side's 5 inches, but let's say that this side is 3 inches, then that means this side would have to be 3 inches. So that just means these sides are congruent and these sides are congruent. We did that because we proved that the two triangles are congruent and then their parts are congruent by CP/CTC. All right, now fact number 5. This one is a little more involved. So we're going to draw two diagonals from here to here. And then the other diagonal from here to here. And I'm going to name this point right here E. And here's my goal. My goal is to prove that this triangle, this bottom triangle, is congruent to this top triangle right here. Well, that's kind of easy, right? I mean, let's do some facts that we know. Fact number 1, fact number 4 from parallelograms that we just learned that opposite sides are congruent. So I could say that AD is congruent to BC. Remember, we're just focusing on this top triangle and this bottom triangle right here. Let's highlight it. I'm going to take another color. And I want to highlight. So focus on this triangle and focus on this triangle. So we know that this side is congruent to this side. Hey, look at that. We know that this angle is congruent to this angle because they're vertical angles. And one more thing. Because this line is parallel to this line and there's a transversal. Get used to looking for those transversals. We know that this angle BCA is congruent to this angle right here because they're alternate interior angles. Thus, this triangle BCE is congruent to DAE. Now, what does that tell us? That tells us something else. Remember, because two triangles are congruent, then their corresponding parts of the congruent triangles are congruent. So that means that this side, I'm going to put 2 tick marks right here. Just from here to here, AE is congruent to EC. So if this side right here were 2, then this side from here to here would be 2. And then this entire side would be 4. This point right here would be a midpoint. So some vocabulary out there. And then because this entire triangle is congruent to this entire triangle, then this side would be congruent to this side. So if this was, I don't know, 7, then this would be 7, and this entire length would be 14. So there you go. So another fact is fact number 5, and the very last fact. Diagonals bisect. What does the word bisect mean? Cut in half. Bisect. When you cut something into 2 equal halves. Bisect each other. So what did this side do to this side? It cut it in half. What did this side do to this entire diagonal? It cut it in half so that there's equal halves. So if this is 2, this has to be 2. If this is 3, this has to be 3. And this entire thing is 6, this entire thing is 4. Or whatever numbers you want to put. Just diagonals bisect each other. There are the 5 facts about parallelograms. Fact number 1, opposite sides are parallel. Fact number 2, consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Fact number 3, opposite angles are congruent. This entire angle B is congruent to this entire angle D. Entire angle A is congruent to entire angle C. Fact number 4, opposite sides are congruent. This is congruent to this. This side is the same length with this. And fact number 5, diagonals bisect each other. So these are equal halves. So from here to here is the same length from here to here, and from here to here is the same length as from there to there. Those are the 5 facts. Now, let me show you some examples using those 5 facts. We don't need this because I already gave you all 5 facts. Whoa. So let's look at this. Well, let's find x first. So this 16 is talking about this side, and if this is a parallelogram, opposite sides are congruent. So this 16 is the same length as this 3x plus 4, so that means that this side has to be 16 also. So we could set it up as 3x plus 4 is equal to 16 because of the fact that opposite sides are congruent. We can subtract 4 from both sides. 3x is equal to 12. Divide both sides by 3. So x is equal to 4 units. Yeah, let's just write units. And then this one, these are opposite angles. And that's fact number 3. Opposite angles are congruent. So we can write y minus 60 is equal to 56. We want to get y by itself, so we're going to add 60 to both sides. So y is equal to 116. Yeah, So y is equal to 116. I hope that's correct. Well, I'm doubting myself because, I don't know, sometimes I'm doubting myself. So when you have doubt, double check. 116. Good job to me. All right, so there you go. There's our two answers. 116 degrees. And here's another way you can check. So if I was 116, we subtract 60. And then, and it's equal to that angle right there, 56 degrees. All right, the next example. All right, so this 25 is talking about the length of this side, and we know opposite sides are congruent, so we can just write 25. We know this side has to be 25, so let's figure out what g is. So 25 is equal to 8g minus 3, and we're going to add 3 to both sides. 25 plus 3 is 28 is equal to 8g. We might get a decimal. And these 8's cancel out. G is equal to, because I don't know, I'm not feeling confident today. I'm going to grab my calculator, divided by 8, and G is 3.5 units. Let's check it, because I'm feeling not so confident. If I plugged in that 3.5 into here to G, 8 times 3.5 minus 3, 25. So checked it. I'm correct. And then now let's look at this. The 72 and f plus 30. Well, ask you, what kind of angles are those two? What kind of angles are those two? Are they opposite or are they consecutive interior? They're consecutive because they're next to each other. They're not opposites to each other, so they're next to. So we know that we're going to write 72. We're not going to put an equal sign yet. We're going to put 72 plus f plus 30 is equal to 180 degrees because from fact number 2, consecutive interior angles are supplementary. So 72 plus the other angle, f plus 30, add up to 180. And let's combine like terms. 72 plus 30 is 102 plus f is equal to 180. We're going to subtract 102 from both sides. F is equal to 78. 78 degrees? You can put 78 degrees. Yeah. And so let's check that. If I plug that 78 into here, 78 plus 30 is 108 degrees. And I'm going to add 72. And they better add up to 180 because they are supplementary. And yes, there's that 180. All right. And very last example about parallelograms. Whoa, what do we have here? Well, we have diagonals. We have this diagonal and this diagonal, and we know diagonals bisect each other. And what do bisectors do? And let's just write that definition. Bisect, or a bisector, cuts something into two equal halves. So that's a bisector. Cut something into two equal halves. So this entire diagonal bisected this entire diagonal. So this half is equal to this half. And this diagonal cut this diagonal into two equal halves. So this half is equal to this half. And another vocabulary word, this is a midpoint to this entire line right there. So equal halves, this half is equal to this half. So I could write m plus 8 is equal to 3m. What's the invisible number in front of this m? 1. I want to get this 8 by itself, so I'm going to subtract 1m from both sides. 8 is equal to 2m. And divide both sides by 2, so m is equal to 4. If I plug that in, 4 plus 8 is 12. Plug this into here. 3 times 4 is 12. So equal halves. 12, 12. This entire length will be 24. Equal halves, so we're going to write 2n minus 1 is equal to 9. We're going to add the 1 to both sides. 2n is equal to 10. Divide both sides by 2. And n is equal to 5. So let's check it. If we plug this 5 into this n right here, 2 times n, 2 times 5 would be 10. 10 minus 1 would be 9. So this would be 9. This would be 9. Equal halves. The entire length of this diagonal would be 18. There you have it. The 5 facts about parallelograms. So try to remember them. So say them to yourself. Close your eyes and say them to yourself. Opposite sides are parallel. Consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Opposite angles are congruent. Opposite sides are congruent. And diagonals bisect each other. Okay, so say them in any order you want. You could do all the opposites together and then do all the other things together. But just make sure you remember all 5. So there you go. This is the 5 facts about parallelograms. Have a great day.